Three, two, one. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a podcast channel where we talk to PropTech CEOs and founders from all over the world and learn from them insights on building PropTech companies. Today we have with me an interesting guest, Idriss Goossens, who has many years of experience over a decade and more maybe in the PropTech space. Goossens is the founder of PropTechlab, a real estate innovators network in Belgium, representing 175 company members. PropTechlab helps raise startup capital and advises large real estate corporations on their innovation strategy. In 2019, Goossens co-founded the European PropTech Association, organizing the PropTech Startup and Scale Up Europe Awards. It is supported by European Commission and by 26 national PropTech hubs, representing 3,000 PropTech startups. In 2020, Idriss founded Relevation, the digital fundraising summit for PropTech. This digital event was created as the pandemic greatly accelerated the adoption of PropTech and the need arose for a digital solution. Relevation facilitates investments in the PropTech space by connecting founders to VCs, GPs, and LPs. He's also the founder of Recap, Resilient Cities Accelerator Program for startups and corporations with a mission to create livable, lovable, and climate-friendly cities. So, as you can see, he is into a lot of things in PropTech, and that's why I invited him to the podcast. So, let's welcome him. Welcome to PropTechBuzz, Idriss. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm great, and thanks for having me.
So, Idriss, you are a busy man. I just gave a hint of all the things that you have been doing in PropTech. But what would be really interesting before we get into the meatier stuff is to understand your career trajectory and how did you transition into the PropTech industry?
So I guess if we take a couple of steps back, I think I was always a sort of entrepreneur because when I was at university, I was a bit bored on the desk, and so I really wanted to have a lot of new clothes, and so I co-founded a clothing brand,
Wow.
and I also really wanted to travel, and so I created the subsidiary of VG Mania, which was a multinational based in Italy and Slovenia, and so I created the Belgian brand, which was a travel event agency for students. And
Nice.
so I was always like, I want something, so let's try to find a way to get it, And then by accident, I actually landed in the PropTech space. Before that, the word PropTech was invented. So I worked for Housing Anywhere in the student housing while I was doing my Erasmus in Italy, in Sicily. And so that was like more than 10 years ago, right? And yeah, so it was really by mistake. And then after Housing Anywhere, I joined a company which was digitizing the construction management, so like removing pen and papers from the construction follow-ups, so collaborative platforms for the non-conformities in construction sites. And so I created the customer success management department there. So I was really always in construction sites, trying to train architects, engineers, general contractors to use this platform, to have this tablet on a construction site, to document their reports of meetings, the non-conformities, etc., etc. And then I went in the mutualization of parkings. So I worked in a B Park in Marseille for 9 months, where I helped, where I basically understood that you had a new trend of mutualization of parkings, and so that was the beginning of the PropTech movement. And so I saw this momentum of innovation, of digitization in construction and real estate. It was like 7 years ago, and so I wanted to play a role there. I wanted to help the sector to achieve its digital and sustainable transformation. And so I created PropTechlab with the ambition to create a space of education, inspiration, where large real estate corporates, together with PropTech startups, could engage with one another and basically reinvent the cities of tomorrow. And so, small notes on what you just said as an intro. So today, PropTechLab is 280 company members, so a little bit more than what you said, but it's just details. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but 280 is like more than 100 companies growth. So what is fascinating about you is you just start things, and it's not easy to just start things. I wanted to start PropTech Lab. It sounds so easy, but what did you mean by starting PropTech Lab? Like, what was your vision? How did you get a team around it? How did you get a network around it? Did you already build a network before that? Maybe a little bit about early stories and the vision behind it, and how did you get the team together?
Yeah. So I think for me, starting things was never a problem. But the real challenge is the consistency and then the growth. But if you want to unpack the real launching moment, I would say um, I really had the chance to build to first start to build a network around this because I had spent a couple of years in this space of prop tech. It was not exactly uh, like I spent like around a year at Aproplan. So there I built a network of general contractors, architects, engineers, so more construction professionals. And I spent also about a year at B Park, and there I was more speaking with developers, some asset managers, some REITs. So it was more of a real estate network. So thanks to this different combined experience, I really had a sort of overview of the complete value chain from the architect to the real estate sector. So I had a beginning of small network, but most importantly, I understood the value chain. So I understood the sector. So I think more important than the network, it's understanding the sector that really uh, is crucial because then you can speak to people with relevant narrative. And
Mm,
so people really understand that what you say makes sense and is interesting. And so you can convince people to come. And so for PropTech Lab, uh, our when we launched, we basically first started to organize events. So,
mm,
right, we organized events. We asked to international keynote speakers or national. At the beginning, I guess it was national keynote speakers, but people that for me was like totally out of my reach. I was so proud to have them. The CEO of the IMOWeb, which is the local in Belgium biggest marketplace. So it was like a dream for me to have them, and so I have him and then a couple of other people, and then I invite people to come, and we have like 50 people coming to the event, and so it's the beginning of something, right? And so it's about building on a momentum. So after this, we do a second event in a couple of months after, and in the meantime, we try to do a couple of small consulting missions where we charge 500 euro per day as a freelance. And so this is really how you build gradually. Um, and sorry, I guess at the beginning, the mission was to. In fact, I didn't really know where I was going. I knew that I wanted to help the sector to innovate. I didn't know exactly how to do it.
right.
And so I first started as a consultant,
Mm,
uh, and then I stopped because as a single man agency, it was totally not scalable.
mm,
And so the impact was also very limited. And so it was
mm,
not enough um, for me. So I installed the membership. Uh, so after a couple of years, after a couple of months, sorry, when I had like maybe like 5 or 4 events organized with some people that were coming, I told them, hey, would it make sense that I organize a community where you would pay a membership fee to have access to events and content, etc. And so
mm,
they said yes, absolutely, we would be done for it. And so that was for me the trigger that okay, then there is a product market fit and it's way more scalable. And then,
mm,
like if I fast track all of this, I had all the youth sickness you could imagine, misalignment with the co-founders. I invited the co-founder in the company. I gave him 50% of their shares, and so, yeah, it was not a good idea. And I mean, quickly. and then we had 100 company members, the first of 50s, and then 200 company members. We launched a platform to the members. So we shifted from an offline community to also an online community with login. So we almost became like a product company, like a
Right.
SaaS.
Mhm.
Uh, and then we launched services again, and we are now 8 FTEs, yeah, 290 company members.
Wow. So when you say 290 company members, these are paid members.
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay. And what's the value of this community? So what do they derive? What is the value proposition of the community today, and what the vision is? I'm sure the vision evolved over time and got concretized even further.
Yeah.
So what is it today that you provide to these 280 companies?
So the value, and then I would also like to comment on the evolutivity of the vision, as you said. The value is very simple. You pay a membership fee in order to have access to content, event, and value-added services. So
Mm,
event, we organize 10 events per year, which can be hybrid, in person or remote. Uh, but these are super high level quality of events. And we have two segments of events: transactional events and educational events. Transactional events are designed to facilitate sales between the members, and educational events are we ban any commercial content. We speak about the vision, our personal lessons learned, our technical stuff, our innovation strategies that succeeded or failed, or stuff like this. So this is
mm,
events. The second is the content. So our members get access to these platforms. So they get basically a login in our member space where they have access to all of the contact details of all the other company members. They have multiple resources, directories, videos. Um, they can ask us to do introductions, etc., between the members. And the last stuff is value added services. So on top of this, our corporates and our startups members can ask us to do a bit of consulting for them. So it can be sales acceleration, fundraising, it can be sourcing of startups, vision of innovation on specific real estate project or stuff like this.
nice.
And so about your evolutivity, our vision never really changed, but our offering has to change because PropTech is a momentum and it's a moving target. So it means it has a beginning and maybe at some point it has an end. But at least every year, the innovation maturity of the market changes. It means founders and startups are increasing, are I mean having a good growth. They have more revenue. They hire more people. They have a bigger brand recognition, and so they need us less and less to do a bit of brand recognition and marketing for them because they start to become more mature. And the corporates also need us less to know what is PropTech because they now understand the new business models, the new technologies, etc., etc. So their innovation maturity is higher. So it means if we want to keep them captive, because now it's 7 years ago that we launched,
Mm,
we need to create new offerings to
mm,
um, to stay relevant for them.
got it.
And so it means that's why we launched a number of new initiatives like Recap, the accelerator, but also with a focus on ESG, or also why we developed this number of services.
Mm,
And so, yeah, so it's important to stay, to constantly ask yourself if you stay relevant or not.
got
Um,
it. Nice. And you said these companies, 280 companies, are all over Europe, I would assume.
no, no, it's so you have a very specific ecosystem in Europe,
Mhm.
but we are strongly focused on the local region of Belgium, Luxembourg. So I would say 90% of the members are based in Belgium and Luxembourg, and the rest is international. We have large asset managers. We have Allianz Real Estate, AXA Investment Managers, etc. We have also 10% of international startups, but real estate is a hyper-local business. And so
Mm,
it doesn't make sense to create a global community of real estate, I think,
got it.
because it's a business where deals are done in cocktails, in networking sessions. Everyone knows each other, and so it's really like a hyper local business. So you need to keep your local substance, I think.
Got it. And So in spite of it being only Belgium and Luxembourg, 90%, so there are 285 players already within that these two countries. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of players. And what kind of companies are we talking about?
So you have 150 startups and scale-ups. So these
Mm,
are really all the new technologies, but also the technical innovations, the business models innovations from all of the construction and real estate life cycle, from invest, finance to live and work. Covering all of the spectrum of PropTech. So 150 roughly, and then you have the rest. Taking the helicopter view is really the construction and real estate professionals, from the architects all the way to the REITs. But we see a bigger concentration of developers
mm,
and the REITs, real estate investment trust. And so I think these are the companies that in general are the most visionary about innovation, the ones that understand that innovation is a priority, is a strategic topic for them,
mm.
and not a nice to have.
Got
We feel less traction from the other core businesses like architects, engineers, general contractors, brokers, etc. Um, and so I think they will become member. Hopefully, maybe our pricing is not right for them. I don't
it.
know. But when we meet 10 developers, 9 of them become member. And if we meet 10 architects, maybe 2 of them become members. So we also focused our sales efforts on the developers, which really see innovation as a leverage to create additional value.
Got
Uh,
it. So you mentioned, just curious. I was not intending to ask this. PropTech is real estate is very hyper local. When a business is hyper local, is there a limit to how much one can grow? Because you cannot scale all over the world, right? So is this true to say that you can only grow so much because it is hyper local?
yeah, it's almost a philosophical question, but of course, you have the total addressable market, the size of the market definitely depends the potential of your business, and so it can be wide or it can be deep. Um, and so, if your question is about PropTechLab,
My
ourselves,
my question is not for PropTech. Like, my question is about digital players, PropTech
okay,
players. Since you said that, no,
okay.
yeah. So can a digital player be a global player, or it has to be hyper local?
Okay, no, no, no. That's exactly the beauty of the thing. Real estate is a hyper-local business, construction as well, but
Mm,
PropTech is not.
mm,
PropTech can cross the borders because the pain points of the sector are the same everywhere, and so you can have scale as a PropTech solution, and you can cross the border. You just need to have a very specific strategy in order to in your go-to-market um, in your go-to-market strategy. You really must understand that it's a hyper-local business, and so I know it because I opened the market for B Park
mm.
in Marseille, and I had to spend around 9 months there, and it was super hard because you have to meet people and you have to go in cocktail nights, and you don't know everyone, and everyone knows each other, and it's not something that you can quickly scale with only digital marketing. It doesn't work like this in construction and real estate. You have to go there and to meet people and spend time, 5 meetings per day. But yes, as a prop tech startup, if you're based in Belgium, France, UK, or whatever, you can have customers all around the world. And in fact, we have seen something a bit. There are maybe two interesting points here to be mentioned. Is the problem of fragmentation of Europe, because Europe is not one single market, but
Yeah.
28, 27 smaller markets with a specific
Need.
ecosystem of players, specific language, specific culture, specific industry standards.
Well,
Um, and so it makes it very difficult to have a pan-European activity. Uh, but it's also maybe a fertile ground for M&A.
mhm.
Because you have a lot of smaller players, and so maybe it's time to consolidate. And the second thing I wanted to mention, I just forgot. So yeah,
Yeah, no problem. No problem. You were with Approplan, is it? You were in Approplan as what? Because I applied in Approplan 4 years ago as for product manager. You
Ah,
know, I got the offer, but at last I actually backed out because somebody said that, okay, my wife won't be able to, she's a dependent on me, she won't be able to get a job. So
yeah.
it was Olivier Gillin at that time who would be my manager then.
Okay.
Yes, so small world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And then could you now, let's just shift gears on Relevation. I wanted to understand these three pieces. Okay,
Yeah.
now what is, how did Relevation start, what was its vision, and could you explain that?
Yeah. So when the pandemic started, I saw that roughly 50% of the PropTech startups in Europe could have cash flow issues in the next 3 months, starting from March, because of the hibernation of the economy. Right, so there was everything was frozen, and so a lot of startups were panicking. Like the whole economy was shrinking, of course, but also a lot of startups were panicking, and so I thought that, hey, there is maybe an opportunity to create an event, which is a transactional event held completely remotely, where prop tech or urban tech founders would meet any sort of investors willing to invest in prop tech. It can be vertical prop tech VCs, it can be generalist VCs, it can be family offices, business angels, founders who exited, any sort of investor who is willing to support prop tech founders, like fast growing prop tech founders.
Mm,
And so that was the beginning of the idea. And so the first edition was uh, we organized it in a couple of months. So it was 1st and 2nd of July 2020, and we had the idea in March, end of March. So like really at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was pretty quick, and we were super proud because I remember in 2020 there were, I think, 47 PropTech unicorns existing globally.
mm,
And we were able to have two founders of them as speaker at the event. And so for me, launching this in the middle of my room at the apartment in the middle of the lockdown, etc. It was like having Mark Zuckerberg at the event, like something like this. So I was like super excited, super proud. Um, but my family and my friends had no idea what the hell was this Relevation. But anyway, and then 3 months after the first edition of Relevation, Cretech, the giant based in US, decided to acquire 40% of the shares of
oh wow.
Relevation to fuel the global growth of Relevation. And so this year is the fourth edition, and we made it some iteration on the product. So we also invited exit partners who are willing to acquire PropTech solutions. We also partnered up last year's with top 10 world-class universities, so they could invite for free their students to come to Relevation to find a job in PropTech or in VC.
Wow.
And we also, because today I think there are 32 PropTech funds dedicated to, to 32 PropTech funds in Europe, but in 2015 there were only two. Or two or three, and so it really increased every year tremendously. And so all of these PropTech funds, like every VC fund, they want to raise capital, and so it's their biggest pain point. It's not
Mm,
access to the deal flow, but rather access to capital. And so
mm,
that's why we also invited GPs, so no LPs, sorry, so fund investors, so fund of funds, sovereign funds, etc., to come to come to Relevation, so they could in 2 days of a digital event have access to all of the VC funds currently raising capital. So it's also
mm,
to give them an overview of everything that exists, allowing them to benchmark and to take the best decision. And so the vision of Relevation is really to increase the efficiency and the transparency in the way we invest in PropTech, and to speed up the access to capital for both founders and VCs. And so, if we can contribute to define the standards of the valuation, etc., that would be a dream. But I guess it's a megalomaniac. But I think what we just want to have is make sure that um, uh, we ease people to do meaningful relations, because I don't want, uh, you know, entrepreneurship is really blood, sweat, and tears, like Churchill was saying, and so it's very painful. It can be very passionate, very emotional, sleepless
Only.
night, etc. And so we don't want founders to take bad decisions, engaging with arrogant VCs or stuff like this, or just people that have a different mindset.
Mm.
And so if we can contribute to link the right people together, that we know that these people together will really become like the magic will really happen, because when founder and VC meet, it can be 1 + 1 = 5 potentially, but it can also be wrong. And so yeah, we wanted just to have a platform where it's easier for people to identify the right match, and so that was the beginning. Yeah.
I love the website, by the way. It's amazingly designed. I fell in love with it. I actually shared
Thank
that.
you for the support.
um, how does it work though? So anybody who is listening to this, first of all, if Crytek has already invested into this, I'm sure there has been solid outcomes from this, right? Maybe could you just list out what have been some of the successes? Have people gotten funding? What level it is? And then any new player, if somebody is listening to this, how can they participate in this?
So on the outcomes, it's actually difficult for us to capture that. We know a couple of we know actually a lot of deals that were done, that were facilitated by Relevation. An example is Shape, a Belgian scale-up who raised their Series A. I think it was 2-3 million, thanks to Relevation. So they met Amavi and Signa Innovation. It was like 3 years ago, at Relevation, and so they really closed thanks to Relevation. But the thing is, imagine you have 150 VCs coming to the event. You have also 150, 200 founders that come. And usually they will do the closing in 6 months after, because they meet at Relevation, and then they start, their due deal, etc., etc. And so it takes a lot of time. And so we have a hard time tracking this.
Mhm.
But we know that the majority of people come back. And so it shows that they were super happy with the value for money. And so I cannot give you a blunt figure like
No,
we
I just
just
wanted to
did
know. So I
100
understand
million. Yeah.
most of this happens offline.
Yeah.
So what happens on the Relevation forum? So
Yeah.
what does meeting mean? Is it an event? Is it a day where people pitch? Is it a pitch demo, or how does it work?
Yeah. So the event is designed as a high standard remote experience. So it means, before the event, all of the attendees get a complete directory of attendees with one pagers of all of the companies. And so it's really like a big PDF with all of the details, like a one pager of all of the VC funds, etc. So the majority of people like download this, and maybe they print it, they keep it in their desk for the next 3 or 6 months. But on top of this, you have, of course, access to a platform where you can send meeting requests and schedule meetings. Um, and then you have access to the content. So it means last year we had, I think, 28 conferences. We had 63 keynote speakers. So that was way too much. This year it will be less. But so you have access to content. And on top of this, we also give access to a number of resources for the founders, like how the investor readiness toolkit, etc., to make sure that they can be ready when they engage with investors. And so just consider that, for the idea is that you have 2 days to tremendously expand your network. You have maybe 20, 50 meetings per day, like super quick meetings. And so during 2 days, you have maybe like, I don't know, up to 50 meetings. And then you can really build on these relations in the next 3, 6 months if they are valuable. And so the idea is like 2 days to expand 10x your network,
Yeah.
and then you build on it.
And then it's up to you, how do you want to capitalize on that network. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And then there is recap. It's fascinating how you have created so many entities. So what's recap, and how
Yeah.
how how is it different from the other
So
two entities?
In fact, there is a pattern. Almost every 2 years, it seems I create something new, but it's not a good example, huh? Because I think you need focus and consistency, and so that's more of a weakness I have, and not something that I should be proud of, or that. But it's also coherent because the idea is in 5 years there is a group of subsidiary companies which are complementary and which can cross fertilize each other,
Mm,
a sort of holding. And so it means it's not like a chicken running without a head. Everything is sort of complementary and can cross fertilize. So Relevation can create a lot of new members for PropTechlab, etc., etc., etc. And
mm,
so Recap is basically an accelerator, the an ESG accelerator, which accelerates two segments of customers. So on one hand, you have the PropTech startups, which should be related to ESG topics. So we really the startups must be related to ESG. It can be circularity, it can be affordability, it can be waste management, air quality monitoring, mobility, energy storage, or it can be also HR tech, like gender pay gap or stuff like this. Um, so we accelerate. It's a sales accelerator for startups, where we will do during 4 months really sales acceleration for them. So we send intros, we get them meetings, etc., etc. And on the second hand, it's an ESG accelerator for corporates. And so the idea is that we accelerate their ESG performance, allowing them to become ESG pioneer. So it starts with um, where are you today? What is your diagnosis? I would say, are you documenting your ESG ambitions? Are you tracking your performance? Are you reporting your performance? Where are you weak? And so then we identify the right startups, and we help you to improve your performance. And at the end, it's a 12-month program for the corporates. And so at the end, the idea is that they become ESG pioneers.
got it. And who is facilitating this? So do you have a set of experts who are actually offering support to
Yeah.
these corporates? Okay, got it.
So yeah, Recap is a joint venture with the most sustainable developer of Belgium. It's Revive. So 50%, 50% joint venture. They were certified B Corp since 10 years. They're active in 4 countries. An amazing developer. And yeah, so they put human resources in the joint venture. We also put our own resource with Sarah, who is an amazing captain of industry. She worked in Silicon Valley, in ABC Accelerator, in Plug and Play, etc. And now she runs she runs the accelerator, Recap. And then we have also a lot of mentors supporting on specific topics.
Got it. Nice. Now I see how each of these three entities. So it doesn't feel like a chicken, headless chicken to me. It actually fits very, very strategic and, as you said, complementing each other. And I think accelerator is the biggest advantage startups could find. So if you can work out a financial model where for a piece of an equity, if you can give them a head start to succeed in the business, nothing like it. So excellent. How big is Recap now? Like how far has it been? Is it a
Oh,
new entity? Or?
it's just the beginning, huh? So
Okay.
we have launched, but it's already a big success, huh, in a way. But it's just the beginning. So we have signed a joint venture a year ago only, and we kicked off the first cohort, I think 6 months ago, and we are now closing it. So we had 10 startups that we accelerated. We had six large corporates, and it was a lot of success. So we helped one of the startups to raise capital. So they will announce it soon. So it was really a lot of achievements, I think. But we're also learning on the job, and so that we have
Mm,
identified a lot of stuff that we have to improve, and we are now starting to collect applications for the second batch. So if there is any uh, urban tech startups related to ESG topic, who wants to have a super big network and growth, etc., you can go to recap.world and apply. And so we will close the selections on March 14th, and then we start the cohort 2 and we are supported by some of the largest players like KBC Real Estate, the bank, etc., etc. So so it works well because I think ESG is definitely the number one concern from the sector. Um,
Yeah. So this is purely ESG or all kinds of PropTech ideas and accelerating
no,
them.
no, it should be related to ESGs or having an impact, social or environmental impact.
Okay, so that's the guardrail. Yes, she's the guardrail.
Yeah,
All right,
that's it.
great, excellent. Idris, thank you for explaining what all you have been doing. Maybe it would also be fair, given your experience in the industry, given your network, given that you are at the center of the thick of action that's happening, not just in Luxembourg, but not just in Belgium and Luxembourg, but around Europe. Could you give us a sense of a summary of the current state of PropTech industry in Europe with what do you see? Okay, what are the potential, where do you see the potential big future, and what are the challenges? Maybe some sense of how you see activity happening in the prop tech space in Europe.
Yeah. So what we were saying to kick off the new year was that we think PropTech is dead because it became sort of synonym of real estate or construction, right? You cannot build without, you cannot ignore PropTech anymore. It became a really an essential component in any building, in any construction site, etc. And so it became really a synonym. You cannot build without a door or a window or a stair, or same with PropTech. You cannot build without PropTech. And so we think it's not a niche anymore, but you now have new terminology that appeared, which are urban tech. Um, Urban tech was considering that, PropTech was considering that it's anything within the square meters, indoor, between the walls, etc. So all of the technology, the innovation, the new business models, etc. Inside the building. But in fact, if you take a bit of altitude, it also matters to have connectivity and innovations between buildings at the scale of a piece of neighborhood or a city. And so this is called urban tech. And so it's really converting prop tech with, I mean, it's overlapping with mobility tech, energy tech, maybe a bit of agri tech as well. So it's really like at the piece of a city, at the level of a piece of city. And the other thing is retrofit tech, because of course, as my friends from EO PropTech are always saying, 70% of the buildings that will be here in 2050 are already here today. So it means that 70% of the building in 2050 are already here today. So it means that renovation will be a huge topic. And so it's a huge opportunity. And so retrofit tech refers to all of the technologies to renovate in retrofit the existing building, because it's easy to design the new building with a lot of innovations, but the problem and the elephant in the room and where it hurts is the existing building that we must renovate, and where it's not efficient, etc., etc. And so I think this is the next big thing, retrofit tech. So that would be some high-level answers, but yeah.
No, that was really good. It just hit me like a ton of bricks that oh yes, I mean people are not going to be building new buildings, but the existing buildings will have to outlive, and then they need to be modernized, they need to be renovated, so that is going to get a lot of investment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's a big space, and if you can actually become skillful in becoming a really good expert in renovation, that's a big opportunity. Excellent, good. Thanks, Idris, thanks for taking time out early morning on a Monday. I just felt so nice getting to know you and seeing everything that you're doing. Very, very inspiring. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for the support, and thank you for this opportunity. I hope it was helpful and appreciated.
Same here, Idris. See you